A dead body dies today, an invisible infrastructure takes over. You make a few calls and hand the process to professionals. But 50,000 years ago, there were no funeral homes. There was only you, a few exhausted, grieving people, and a body that had to be dealt with immediately, with your own hands. A dead body decays fast, especially in a warm climate. Within hours, it becomes a severe physical hazard. It acts as a beacon, attracting dangerous predators to the area, and quickly transforms into a vector for disease. Because of that severe biological risk, almost the entire animal kingdom treats death the exact same way. They ignore it. They walk away from the body and keep moving to survive. Somewhere in our evolutionary past, our ancestors looked at that hazard, ignored every instinct telling them to flee, and decided to handle the body instead. This creates a significant problem for archaeologists trying to understand our history. Emotions do not fossilize. Psychological intent does not fossilize. All that survives the millennia is the physical arrangement of bones packed into dirt. Distinguishing between a group that is mourning and one that is simply managing a biological hazard requires examining the extreme physical labor left behind. Effort, unlike belief, survives in the ground. At Cima de los Huesos in Spain, the evidence dates back roughly 430,000 years. Researchers found the remains of at least 28 individuals clustered at the bottom of a 43-foot vertical shaft. Because no water flow could have carried them there, researchers conclude someone brought them there and dropped them down on purpose, again and again. Among the bodies, archaeologists found a single finely made piece of pink quartzite, a hand axe. Some researchers argue this is the first grave good in the human story. Others counter that a single stone tool could easily have been dropped by accident. A similar debate surrounds Shanidar Cave in northern Iraq. In the 1950s, excavation teams uncovering Neanderthal skeletons found one body surrounded by unusually high concentrations of pollen from multiple flowering plants. The original excavator proposed that Neanderthals had gathered wild spring flowers to lay their dead to rest on a woven bed of color. But recent microscopic analysis shows that burrowing rodents could have easily dragged that pollen into the dirt centuries later. A single stone tool or a microscopic grain of pollen is simply too ambiguous to prove psychological intent. To find an answer, researchers had to look for undeniable, large-scale physical modifications of the environment. At a rock shelter in France called La Chapelle-aux-Saints, archaeologists found a Neanderthal skeleton resting inside a shallow, sharply cut rectangular pit. The bedrock itself was altered. The pit perfectly matches the dimensions of a human body pulled into a curled position, with the knees drawn up tightly to the chest. Measuring, carving, and fitting a hole for a corpse into solid rock requires massive physical exertion. They did this tens of thousands of years before anyone on Earth had invented a shovel. Back at Shanidar Cave, a newer discovery from 2018, nicknamed Shanidar Z, reveals similar dedication. The ground beneath the body shows clear signs of being specifically dug out and shaped to receive the corpse. The placement of the individual is highly specific. The body was carefully positioned flat on its back, with one arm folded gently beneath the head like a pillow. A shaped pit and a carefully folded arm demonstrate a clear commitment to the dead. This is spatial preparation, the physical proof of ritual intent. The most staggering proof of a group's intent comes from the Sungir site in Russia, dating back 34,000 years. Archaeologists uncovered 2 adolescents buried head-to-head in a trench. The adolescents were buried with massive spears over 6 feet long, carved entirely from mammoth ivory, and straightened using intense heat and pressure. Sewn directly into their clothing were nearly 10,000 individual ivory beads. Carving a single bead from dense mammoth tusk by hand is incredibly tedious. Producing 10,000 of them represents thousands of hours of intense, focused labor. A dead body does not need beads. No group facing the brutal realities of the Ice Age spends an entire winter's worth of labor on a corpse just to keep scavengers away. This level of economic sacrifice proves the burial served a purpose far beyond hygiene. If a corpse gains zero physical benefit from a straightened 6-foot spear or thousands of hand-carved beads, who is this enormous expenditure of energy actually serving? In a small, prehistoric hunter-gatherer community, losing a skilled member is a critical threat. The sudden absence of their specific knowledge and labor rips a hole in the group's ability to function and survive. The intense shared labor of a burial solves this crisis. When the entire community stops to dig a pit in the bedrock, carve ivory, or stain bones with red ochre, they are forced to process the trauma together at the exact same time. The ritual acts as a critical social technology designed to repair the living. So the next time you go to a funeral, sit in a stiff chair and watch a room full of people cry over someone none of them can help anymore, remember what you are doing. You are participating in an ancient survival mechanism, born the moment our species looked at death and refused to just walk away.